Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Disappointed!
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? It's Friday. Welcome to the show. TGIF. Holy crap, it has been a long week. It's been a long week, but we are here. We're capping off the final day of the week, final show of the week. And we've got some fun stories. We're going to talk about Elon Musk. Yes, Elon Musk. We're going to have fun with that, including how he believes that the left has gone off the deep end. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, I've got some news for him on that. And I have the receipts. I'm going to show everybody how that is just patently false. Right wing, off the deep end. We're going to talk about that. We got Libs at TikTok. An update on that. We've got more. We got Laura Ingraham. And another Fox personality maybe saying some things that they shouldn't have about student loan debt cancellation. So we've got all those stories, all that. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Helps us out as always. And with that said, let's dive in. We've got the newest changes at Twitter that are yet to come, of course. Okay. Fresh off the announcement that Elon Musk has bought Twitter, he has already floated some ideas to make his investment pay off. After all, homeboy paid $44 billion for Twitter. $44 billion. That is a ton of money. Obviously, he dumped Tesla shares for it, but he also got a lot of money from the banks. And so, well, what happens? You borrow money, you're going to have to do a return on investment. And that's what Elon Musk is now trying to do. Apparently, he did not have this planned beforehand, which is interesting. So he's floated some ideas according to people familiar with the matter. In fact, this is according to Reuters. Musk had made a pitch to lenders as he had tried to secure the debt for the buyout days after submitting his offer to Twitter on April 14th. According to these three people, he had told banks that had agreed to help his $44 billion acquisition that he would try to monetize Twitter. Oh, really? Monetize Twitter. Now, that offer was accepted by the board, the $44 billion. So now I'm going to be focused more on what this means for the average Twitter user, because I think that's really important. But I do want to contextualize this as well with other things that he could do. The sources mentioned that the plans that he outlined were, to the banks were thin on details. So let me get this straight. So Elon Musk goes to the banks and says, "Hey guys, I need like $11 billion, or however much he borrowed from these banks." Because again, he did sell Tesla shares in order to fund part of it as well, and a lot of it is going to come out of his pocket. But he still needed a substantial loan from these financial institutions. So he comes up and he says, "Well, I need this much money. What are you going to do?" "Well, I'm going to buy Twitter." "Okay, why should we give you the money? What are you going to do? How are you going to make money and give us a return on investment? Because Twitter ain't going to make that much money." Well, apparently he had no idea. Could you imagine being a normal person? Well, you are a normal person if you're watching the show, very likely. I couldn't just come up to a bank and be like, "Yo, I need $10 billion. And I have no idea what I'm going to do to pay you back." They're going to laugh in your face. But considering how it's Elon Musk, well, obviously, we're going to give you that money. Yes. Based on some vague, predictions that you will somehow make it profitable. Again, not every bank would loan to him, obviously. There were some that were like, "Yeah, we're just not sure. You're kind of predictable. We don't know if you're actually going to be able to make the money." But some banks were like, "Yes! Oh, let's do it." Oh, all right. Great. Now, some of his ideas, interestingly enough, are not entirely horrible. And for example, Musk said, "You know what? I'm gonna eliminate the salaries of Twitter's board of directors." I'm not against that. I mean, look, and here's why. Twitter's stock-based compensation for the 12 months ending December 31st was $630 million. Do they really need a $3 million salary, the board members? Not really. Executives get overpaid in all of these giant corporations. And so, hey, if you want to get rid of that, save some money, totally fine. Totally fine. However, that's one good idea. And the rest of these ideas, not so good. Bloomberg News reported earlier on Thursday that Musk specifically mentioned job cuts as part of his pitch to the banks. So of course, "Oh yeah, we're just going to eliminate some jobs." Oh, so you're going to make people unemployed to save money in order to pay for your stupid acquisition. Oh, great. So you got people... Again, this is what happens, right? Some rich douchebag comes and buys up a company, and who suffers first? Obviously, it's regular workers. It's working people that are there, that will end up being cut. The people at the bottom, of course, with no power. Surprise, right? No, not a surprise at all. Now, one of the sources said that Musk will not make any decisions on any job cuts until he assumes ownership of the company later this year. Now, on the subject of job cuts, I wonder who's going to go first. I wonder what department is going to get eliminated. It's probably going to be the ones that moderate chat or moderate... do content moderation on Twitter. Because again, that really goes along with Elon Musk's so-called free speech stance, where basically he's going to let just about anything go. Oh yeah, I totally believe in free speech. This is why we're not going to do any moderation on content, which means we're just going to let anybody post just about anything. Now that's not going to go well, is it? No, of course not. It's going to end up with the website filled with Nazis and people taking pictures and posting of their own feces. Why? Because that's exactly what happened. That's what happened on Parler. The CEO had to come out and say, hey, look, really, guys, stop sending pictures of your own poop. Please. Stop posting pictures of your poo. We are tired of it. We're fed up. We're sick of your shit. Literally. Oh, okay. Well, great. So, look, and here's the thing that I've argued, right? You do need some ground rules. I'm sorry, but if you're running a social media company, you need ground rules, or you're going to bring in the worst people who are going to do and say the worst kinds of shit. In some cases, post literal shit. That's why you need these rules. I know, but free speech, censorship. I'm sorry, but you do need ground rules, or you're going to have a place that is going to drive out people who don't want to see Nazis everywhere. People who do not want to deal with the kind of harassment. You know what that means? It means that no matter what kind of monetization options that he's bringing. And by the way, you also become a product, because another idea, before I get too ahead of myself, was one of the ideas that he brought up included charging a fee when a third-party website wants to quote or embed a tweet from a verified individual or organization. So, oh yeah, hey, what news website? Yeah, if you want to take this tweet that you can totally screenshot and post anyway on your website for a story, we're going to charge you for it. How you going to enforce it, bro? You going to take everybody to court? You going to sue people who take a tweet? And by the way, do you think that you own these tweets? Because I don't know, if you post on Twitter, does Elon Musk now own what you have said? Is that now content that he can monetize, but you can't? Have you become a product? And by the way, that's exploitative. Because if you're taking stuff that I'm saying, stuff that I'm putting on Twitter, and you're monetizing it without my consent and without giving me money, well, then you have exploited my labor, my thoughts, my intellectual property. Does that mean I could sue you? This whole thing is a can of worms. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so, look, that's where it could very likely affect us. But again, how you can enforce it, it's just like NFTs, right click and save. Oh, I'm sorry, screenshot and paste. Stupidest idea I've ever seen. Stupidest idea. And by the way, if it does become a pay platform, then nobody's going to be on it, because who is going to pay to be on Twitter? No, the whole thing, again, when you monetize something too much, a platform, just to access it, especially one that purports to be free speech and is full of Nazis, well, look, we know how that's going to end. It's going to be a disaster. And then Elon Musk is going to lose all of his money. The guy has no idea what he's doing. None at all. No idea. The guy's going to lose his investment, and it probably will be forced to sell it off cheaper than when he bought it. Or he might just have to go back to doing the current kind of moderation policies that they do now and destroy his so-called free speech argument. So, and really, going back to the reason that he did this in the first place, his ego. He just wanted to make sure that he could go after people that make fun of him on Twitter. So, congratulations. Whatever direction he ends up going, it's probably going to be quite terrible for anybody who's still on Twitter. Does it matter which group of billionaires own Twitter? It depends on the policies that they put forward and how they run the business. So that is basically the only difference here is, okay, what kind of policies are they going to put up? What are they going to do for the end user? And, how are they going to pay for that and market that product and allow you to use a product? So it does have an impact. And from what I'm seeing so far, that impact is probably not going to be very positive. He's rich enough to hire someone to manage it correctly. But will he? We don't know that. We don't know that. And so right now it's still up in the air, guys. Still up in the air. All right. Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, wants you to know that he is very, very centrist. He is an enlightened centrist, and that really, out of the so-called extremes that we have on the political spectrum, the polarization in this country, that it's really the left that's gotten so much more extreme than anyone else. In fact, recently, he took an image and he tweeted this. Oh, look at that, 2008. Obviously, Elon Musk's supposed to be the me, my fellow liberal. And then, 2012, it looks like the liberals going left. Oh no, and the right is staying the same. And then finally, in 2021, the woke progressive, no longer the liberal, the woke progressive, now on the left, calling somebody a bigot. Oh no, oh God, no. The only problem is that didn't happen. That's not real. That's not the reality. In fact, turns out it went the other way. Did liberals get slightly more liberal? Yeah, a little bit. But Republicans got way more conservative. In fact, here's a chart from Pew Research that shows this. Republicans have moved further to the right than Democrats have to the left. Oh, look at that. And we're talking about Congress here. Okay, fair enough. These are lawmakers. The Democratic Party, not that much more liberal than it was before. Okay. And that's from the 1970s, so not super progressive. But then, you had the Republicans going way further to the right. Now, here's the thing about that, okay? Now, generally, that can be explained by the base going further to the right and electing more right-wing politicians, whereas the base of the Democratic Party still generally supported and voted for establishment politicians, establishment Democrats. So that really does reflect the voter base. By the way, the only progressive Democrats that we have are people like Bernie Sanders and the squad. So I don't know what the guy's talking about. He's wrong. So now, according to more of the research, right, both parties have actually moved further away from the ideological center since the early 1970s, as the chart showed. Democrats on average have become somewhat more liberal, which that's really more on social issues, while Republicans on average have become much more conservative, both on economic and social issues. And so you can see that. So you can also see that Elon Musk, well, look, he either hasn't changed or he ran to the right after 2008, where he was always on the right. So now, interesting, what happened in 2008? Well, the recession and the bank bailouts. Now, that's where the government bailed out corporations and left average people high and dry. Now, a lot of people who got fucked over this, were fucked over by George W. Bush. That was the policies that led to it, the housing crash. But they got fucked over by Bush, but during the Obama administration, they saw the Obama, the Democrat, do what? Bail out the banks. They bailed out the corporations, they bailed out the banks, but again, they left regular people high and dry. Now, I wonder if that would piss people off. Yes, it would. It pissed off a lot of people. And in fact, some of these people went either to the right and started going super hard anti-Obama. But then, of course, there were some that went to the left and were like, no, this is corporate America. So we're also fuck Obama for doing that, for bailing out the banks. But we know it's because we have corporate rule. And so it is a more systemic problem, but people reacted in two different ways. Now, here's the thing about that, right? So back when I knew nothing about politics, I considered myself a fence-riding centrist. Oh, I'm a moderate. I believe in some things over here, some things over there. What things? I couldn't tell you. And then when I actually learned about politics, I was like, oh, turns out I'm a progressive. I'm in the progressive left now. And it turns out I was always there. It's just I didn't know that I was there. Now, Elon Musk, pretty sure the guy was always economically conservative. Why? Because he grew up wealthy. He's the son of an emerald mine owner. So now the guy probably just considered himself liberal because conservatives kind of suck. And so not only that, but again, if you're more socially liberal, i.e. in the fact that you don't really want to see gay people murdered, I guess he could consider himself an enlightened centrist. Oh, yes, yes. Now, that said, today he's totally fine with the right wing targeting trans people, targeting teachers, and getting them to harm themselves through targeted campaign harassment campaigns, and letting states like Florida and Texas pass horrifying bills against them. That's the difference here. So really, it's not the left getting more left. It's that the left is now more vocal over a lot of these social issues. And so the result of this polarization is really the culture wars. It's a result of the culture wars. The left wants trans people to be able to be themselves. The right wing, and by the way, we're more vocal about that. The right wing wants trans people dead, and they're much, much more vocal about it. And so understand that that's why the right wing has gone on this everybody's a groomer, everybody's a pedophile, arc. In fact, that comic that Elon Musk had shared comes from a person named Colin Wright. Also considers himself, I guess, a centrist. But at the same time, he's using right-wing rhetoric that accuses the Trevor Project, an organization that helps suicidal and abused LGBTQ plus teens, of being a shady grooming organization. In fact, here's that tweet. The Trevor Project, a nonprofit LGBTQ advocacy organization, provides a way for children to chat with their counselors. Why is that in quotes? And that includes a quick exit feature that automatically quits and erases your browser history to keep parents in the dark. Yeah, parents that would rather have a dead child than a gay or trans child. That's why. That's why that feature actually is important. That's why that feature is very helpful. And so, now, that same guy is, by the way, trying to sell that comic as an NFT. And was mad about Elon Musk not giving him credit, even though he is an Elon Musk fanboy. Hilarious. So, look, that said, all of this is completely gross and off base. The whole idea that Elon Musk is just some enlightened centrist and that the Democratic Party has ran away from him, that the left has ran so far to the left to leave him behind, is bullshit. Absolute horseshit. The guy's always been conservative, and he just doesn't like people calling him out for his terrible conservative positions. Now, that said, one thing that I found very interesting about centrists, right? And I've done some segments about so-called centrism on this show before. Now, it turns out that you are more likely to be a centrist, and this matches my own experience, if you don't know anything, if you're kind of an idiot about politics. Groups in the ideological middle show lower levels of engagement with politics. So look at that. Percentage who say they follow what's going on in government and public affairs most of the time. So if you do not know, if you do not follow what is going on, you are more likely to be a centrist. And that's it. The more you learn, the more you actually start to understand what side stands for what. So, that's what's going on. Now, as for Musk, again, he's a right-winger because he's economically conservative. He hates unions. He loves tax cuts and deregulation for his companies. But see, the only reason that he's pushing back is like, oh, no, I don't like the far right. What are you talking about? I don't like the far right either. I have no love for them. Well, it's because, again, he's probably fine with gay people existing. He's not actually pushing back against them. But he's mad that people call them out. They call them out. Call out people for not defending trans people and gay people. See, it's, again, the left expects now everybody to fight to ensure that gay people and trans people are protected. And I think that's a good thing. I think that we should be doing that. We should stand up for our LGBTQIA brothers and sisters and everybody who's in between, the non-binary folks. I think that we should. Except that apparently Musk, you know what? The screaming left. They're just too crazy. They're too crazy. No, it's not us who are crazy. It's the Republicans who continue to get more and more extreme and more violent in their rhetoric and in what they've actually done. Now, if you are ignoring that because you just happen to get tax cuts and deregulation from right-wing politicians, that means that you are less enlightened centrist and more self-interested. Okay. Peter Thiel has attacked the gay community for years, never mind that he's gay himself. Yeah, that's true. Again, because the tax cuts are good. I recently, I realized I leaned socialist in my mid-20s, despite never really learning about socialism. And again, you can know that you you can understand that you feel certain ways about certain things without actually putting words to it. All right. His money and his inventions is his life. I'm not sure if he's invented anything. He just buys other companies. And then pays people to make things. Okay, anyway, let's go to Libs at TikTok. The drama around the Twitter account Libs of TikTok continues. Now, as we find out more and more about how they've used their account to target and harass LGBTQIA people with their massive following. So now you have a lot of people defending the account. And unfortunately, there are people on the left. And they say, well, you understand, like, all they do is they just post cringy SJW videos. And, and somehow that was enough for people to dox them because they just want them to stop showing what the leftists actually believe. Now, here's the thing. I've pointed out before that a lot of their reposts of these videos involved commentary. Now, there's nothing wrong with commentary, except that their commentary usually involves smears. Basically accusing them of being groomers, pedophiles, and basically inserting things that they had never said. and trying to use that in order to get these people mobbed, attacked online. And it works. Now, we know the owner of the account, thanks to the Washington Post, as Chaya Rychik. And she has basically used that account to direct harassment at schools and educators. In fact, the Media Matters review of Rychik's Twitter account found that Libs of TikTok has tagged or named at least 222 schools, education organizations, or school system employees in 2022 alone, often directing users to harass that individual or school district or teacher. So I'm going to give you some examples here. In the last week alone, the account targeted a school district, a middle school, and 4 teachers for teaching students about identity, sexuality, or other so-called propaganda. Now, again, none of those things are teaching sex, right? They're just teaching about, oh, hey, this person has 2 dads. Wow. Oh, how dare you teach them about that, you groomer? More examples. Texas's Austin Independent School District has been targeted in at least 18 tweets by Libs of TikTok. The tweets questioned the district's pride celebrations and tagged individual employees, again, accusing them of grooming. On March 22nd, Libs of TikTok shared a letter from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton to the Austin district that claimed celebrating pride events with students was a week-long indoctrination and against Texas state law. Rychik wrote, "Oh my God, I've been tweeting about this district for 2 days. This makes me so happy." Just this week, Libs of TikTok posted another attack against the district, sharing a fake Facebook post that falsely claimed that the student was giving elementary students homework on furries. Let me show you that. Second grade teacher in Austin ISD allegedly gave students worksheets on furries. These are good at a furry word search and activity of designing your own furry persona, also known as a fursona. Oh no. Except that it turns out to be not real. It was fake, literal fake news created by people who wanted to get a rise out of reactionaries. Let me give you the details on that. Mashable reached out to the school district via phone and email. Austin ISD Media Relations Manager Christina Nguyen confirmed that these worksheets were not taught in any second grade class or anywhere and were not part of the district's curriculum. Quote, "Our curriculum team looked at our resources and it is not in our curriculum, nor is it part of our counseling or social or emotional learning." So again, where did they come from? They were created by an online troll. On the website, Reddit, r/drama. And has since deleted a post that was archived via Google on April 13th, 12 days before Libs of TikTok fell for the fakes. Members discussed the Furry Culture Month school worksheet troll created by one of r/drama's moderators. The post compiles a user of Reddit posts created by the mod in an attempt to trick their users. Most of the top comments aren't falling for it, but if you sort by controversial comments, you get a few special Redditors, explained the r/drama user who created the thread. Again, this was simply to troll people. And so what happened is that here you have something that is completely fake, but ended up having some real consequences. In fact, here's the thing. This resulted in the school district's Twitter account receiving replies accusing the schools of grooming students and claiming parents were pulling their children out for crossing the line. And I'm sure some of them probably ended up being death threats or threats of violence. So again, fake thread, real results, danger. And by the way, these are the same people that accused the Washington Post of doxing them, when in reality, Libs of TikTok has been doxing people all along. I'll give you an example of that. Since deleted tweets from Libs of TikTok account show that it had previously doxed individuals, sharing physical addresses, places of work, phone numbers, and an email connected to targeted persons. Here's one example. So now this was blocked out by Matt Binder, who had found this. And so here you are, again, public information being put out to their near million followers, so that what do you think would happen? Well, those followers would see that and see that, oh my God, this must be a groomer. We must come after them. By the way, somebody even called. I had someone call before he even finished his sentence. The woman who had answered said she doesn't work here anymore and never has taught that curriculum. She was unaware of this when teachers stopped working there. I take it they got many calls today. So here she is gloating about it. She's so glad. She's so happy that she led to all of this harassment going on. That's who they are. There's more. The Salem Kaiser Public Schools in Oregon were also targeted by Libs of TikTok. The schools were tagged in at least 12 tweets from the account between February 28th and April 5th. Rychik attacked the school district over teaching a book that mentions racism, instances of racism that actually has happened in U.S. history. So now, teaching history is bad. So teaching that racism actually happened in this country, which is a fact, that is somehow bad. We can't do that. Oh, no. Because then this Twitter account will bring you up and then dox you? Or they'll direct their followers to spam that school's website or Twitter account with hate tweets or hate mail. That's what they do. That's what they do. And by the way, that same school also had announced new policies that supported trans students using their chosen pronouns in bathrooms. Well, that's great. And issuing pronoun pins to students and faculty. I don't see anything wrong with that. Using pronouns does not harm you in any way. That does not affect your life in any negative way. Why is it so hard to use pronouns for some people? It's because they do not want to validate another human's existence in their chosen gender. Again, how does the existence of that person hurt you at all? It doesn't. Whereas you denying them who they are, it does have an effect. All right. There's more. Libs of TikTok then claimed that the Kaiser public school systems were in disarray from the attention following the tweets. An April 4th tweet from the Salem Kaiser account, which typically receives just a handful of interactions on its tweets, received hundreds of replies, many filled with anti-LGBTQ attacks and smears. Rychik cheered it on, mockingly calling on her followers to continue harassing the district's Twitter account. That being said, she said, definitely do not keep up the pressure on Salem Kaiser to ask why they think it's okay to have boys in the girls' bathrooms. Hide information from parents of boys and girls sharing bedrooms on field trips. It would be really bad if everyone kept tagging them. Again, just utter lies. BS. Another instance of Libs of TikTok using Twitter's platform for targeted harassment, Rychik shared a video in a thread of tweets on April 10th from the trans teacher on Instagram, explaining how he teaches his students about identity. Rychik tagged the teacher's employer and included the teacher's Instagram username in her tweets. Users replying to Libs of TikTok argued that the teacher should not be allowed to work with children, again, calling them a groomer, should not be allowed to work with children, and declared that he is another groomer that needs to be arrested and jailed for abusing and trying to indoctrinate kids into the sickness. And that's like super old school homophobia. And also disturbed song. Sickness. Okay, anyway. Now, the school ended up having to block Libs of TikTok. And then, of course, they had to delete related tweets and made its Twitter account private, bullying them into silence. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, they got silenced. I thought conservatives were against cancel culture. And against silencing people. Weird. Now, Rychik celebrated this, tweeting on April 11th, They aren't coping well with all the attention. The teacher's Instagram was also made private as well from their harassment. Now, another person that they targeted was a Florida teacher who said she'd rather lose her job than out any of her LGBTQ students to their parents. Now, you might think, okay, but why would she not tell the parents? Should the parents know? The thing is that there are parents out there who are very anti-LGBTQ, who, again, would rather have a dead child than a gay child or a trans child. And so you would be effectively putting that child in danger. And then, of course, you have the torture that is gay conversion therapy. And so, look, there are states out there that allow this form of torture, where you send children in to be, again, it's torture. And so, they send these children in and then expect them to come out straight, when in reality, their mental health is damaged, sometimes almost irrevocably. And so that's what you have. That's why some parents shouldn't know. And I know that's difficult to say, because, if you're a parent, you would want to know, you would want to have a good parent would want to have your child comfortable enough to come to you with these kinds of things. But there are parents out there who value their political or religious identity more than they value their children. And then believe, well, if my child is gay or trans, then I guess I don't have a child. And that right there just means that you've failed as a parent. Not failing because you have a trans child or a gay child, but failed because you failed to support your gay and trans child. That's the real failure. Now, that said, Libs of TikTok also shared a video on March 29th, which was amplified by one of the Sinclair Broadcast Group's National Desk segments, as well as The Blaze. And by the way, that named the teacher's employer, and so obviously outing them in an attempt to get them, what? Canceled. Fired from their jobs. That's what they're doing. This is right-wing cancel culture. We're going to cancel you. We're going to get you fired for being trans or gay or teaching about these issues that are real issues. It's incredibly gross, targeted harassment with a very, very specific purpose. They're just bullying people back into the closet and doing cancel culture to anyone who tries to stand up for these people. If you discard your child because of who they are, you do not deserve children. Parents who are not able to figure out if their child is gay or straight are oblivious to the child. My son is my son, no matter who he is, who he loves. Yes. And there are some people that just don't seem to understand that. And it is quite distressing. And just quite disgusting that you would give up on your kid because of who and what they are. Okay. I know of at least 2 recent cases of parents killing their trans children. One mother shot dead her own trans kid, and also the sister that took up for them. Jesus. That's what this, that's why this is important. This is why Trevor Project is important. This is why, the legislation that forces parents and trusted officials at school to notify parents about this stuff. Why it's so dangerous. You are getting trans children killed. You are getting gay children killed. And of course, as we've seen over and over, these people do not care. They really don't actually care about real children. All they care about are straight, white, Christian children. Everybody else, no. Oh, and by the way, they also have to be rich. Did I mention rich? Because again, they don't care about poor kids. It's disgusting. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. All right. Fox host Laura Ingraham has joined in the chorus of Republicans against the cancellation of student loans. So, look, recently the Biden administration, an article thought, oh, okay, maybe we're going to try to do something, maybe cancel a small amount of student loans. One of the campaign promises that Biden had made was to cancel 10,000. Now, that wouldn't actually solve the problem. There's almost $1.8 trillion worth of student loans. It would help a significant amount of people who have debt under 10,000, or or take a significant chunk out of the debt. But it doesn't really solve the problem. But it appears even that much, or any amount, is too much for the people over at Fox News. Like many, Ingraham used the argument that, well, look, mine are paid off. And so I paid mine off, and so should you. Except that there's one little caveat to that one. It appears that she accidentally admitted that she didn't pay off her own student loans. So now, before I get to that, Ingraham had attended Dartmouth, where she earned her undergrad in the mid-1980s, when college was much cheaper. How much cheaper? Back in 1985, tuition was about $10,000 a year. Oops. Now, the undergrad tuition fees are about $60,000. The graduate tuition school tuition and fees are actually about $59,000. So roughly, again, $60,000. Now that's a huge change in price. Huge. And that's even accounting for inflation. Now here's another example, according to a study by Demos, for members of Congress who are supposed to be legislating on this. And it really also shows you one reason why they're not really doing a whole lot, even though Biden has the authority to do so right now. For members of Congress, because I showed you yesterday tweets from Mitt Romney, and there were tweets from other members of Congress, Jim Jordan, for example. And so they were all against this. Well, how much should they pay back in the day? For members of Congress, generally, since they are on the older side, they paid on average in tuition for just 1 year about $3,800. That's an average of $8,000 in today's dollars. Students attending the same mix of colleges would see tuition bills averaging over $24,000 per year, an increase of over $15,000. Now, nowhere in the arguments from the right wing and from so-called centrists, who are really just conservatives who might not hate gay and trans people, well, that they use to justify forcing people to pay back these loans, do they address how much more the average college student has had to borrow just to go to school? It's multitudes more than what they did. And of course, at the same time, when you couple it with the lack of the growth of wages, that's why it's so difficult for people to pay it back. That's why they're under this gigantic debt load. It's not as if, oh, it's just a little bit of money, and so, they should be able to pay it back within a couple of years of having their good job. No, that's not the reality of the situation. Oftentimes it takes 30 to 40 years to pay off your student loans. And oftentimes it's a result of, well, poor pay. Or just the enormous amount that you have to borrow just to be able to go to school. And so now it gets better though, because Ingraham basically admitted, I didn't actually pay most of my loans. Here's her tweet. My mom worked as a waitress until she was 73 to help pay for our college. Even helped with loan repayment. So wait, she paid part of your tuition and helped you repay part of your loan? But hey, I paid it myself, and therefore you should pay it too. She added, loan forgiveness is just another insult to those who play by the rules. Ah, yes, playing by the rules by having your mother work till she is basically, 1 foot away from the grave to pay your student loans. Not exactly a winning argument there. And it's a good thing too. I doubt that this actually happened. I mean, there's no way. Remember, she makes millions of dollars a year at Fox News. Based on how much or how little tuition is or was back in the day when she had graduated from college, she could pay that off with a week's paycheck easily. Pocket change for her. If she allowed her poor elderly mother to work till she was 73 waiting tables to help pay for her loans, well, I mean, again, that really, for one, destroys your argument because you had help, and so you didn't do it all on your own. And again, it also makes you look like a shit person. And also made the case that we should absolutely do student loan forgiveness and fix the cost of college. So that, somebody's 73-year-old mother doesn't have to take out an additional job to pay off the loans of her daughter, who's also incredibly wealthy. Again, horrible. What a horrible person. Now, she got some replies to this, and these are pretty great. Julie IF says, I played by the rules, and the rules gave me shit for financial aid. Despite being the child of refugees who had no money. Still, my parents and I played by the rules, paid off the loans that we all took out to pay for my college education. I, and they, fully support loan forgiveness. Awesome. Cher Jacobus, however, she had some questions about the timeline. How old was Laura when her mom was 73? Because even if she gave birth to her at age 40, it meant Laura made her wait tables to pay for her Ivy League degree and law degree that she never used when Laura was well into her 30s and on TV. Making lots of money as well. Interesting. Then there were some snarky replies. Luke says, I made my mother labor for shit wages until she died too to prove a lesson. Because that's what all conservative patriots do. Aaron Monkey says the rules should include working into your 70s to pay for a child's tuition. That's dumb and broken and not at all normal. Maybe we should stop shaming people who are buried under debt from a corrupt system and instead reform the system that buried them. But understand that would make sense. That would make sense and actually be the right thing to do. So we can't do that. No. Dave Zarin says, do you hate your own mother so much you want others to suffer as she suffered? And then answering his own question, that tracks. Well, I mean, that is Laura Ingraham. Didn't she have a brother that constantly comes out and talks shit about her too? Like, oh yeah, Laura Ingraham. Horrible person. Terrible. Yeah. Well, she proves it all the time. Finally, Kyle Tucker says, number one, you let your mom work until you're 73 to pay your debts? And number two says, what a great argument for student loan forgiveness. Very, very true. Just cancel the debt. Her brother hates her. That's what I thought. I don't blame him. Called her a monster. Yep. Called her a Nazi. Again, probably true. Has a couple of siblings who hate her. Again, not surprising. Okay. All right. One last related segment here. We're going to go to Republican hypocrisy. Shocker. All right. Fox host Jeanine Pirro is really adamant that people who take out student loans or any kind of loan repay their debts. In fact, here she is on Wednesday's episode of The Five.
This asinine, I want to pay off student debt, is an insult to the senior citizens, to the people who pay taxes, to people who decide, do I want to buy meat this week or pay for my medicine? That's hogwash. You got so many jobs. You got a great economy. Let them work and pay off their bills just the way all of us do. That's the end of it.
Just the way all of us do. Oh, yeah, it's so asinine. You got to pay off your loans. You got to pay them off. You know what? I love how she tries to pit people against each other, right? Because, look, there are people out there, and it's true, there are people out there deciding between food and medicine. Happens to be a lot of those people are also those who have student loans. not all the same, right? But I'm pretty sure that there's quite a bit of overlap. And again, why do you think they have to make that choice, Janine? Why do you think they have to make the choice between food and medicine or rent and medicine? Oh, could it be how medication and healthcare are incredibly expensive for the average person? Do you ever talk about the need to maybe, I don't know, make medication and healthcare free at the point of service, like through Medicare? Now, of course, it's not entirely free. It's paid for through taxes, which, yes, would increase some taxes on the rich. Could they also talk about how Medicare is not able to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies and how that affects the price and keeps the price high, much higher compared to the same drugs for our neighbors, like in Canada or in Europe, where they actually pay a lot less than we do for the same prescription drugs made by the same companies. Do we ever talk about that? Do you ever talk about that, Janine Pirro? Do you ever talk about the need for Medicare for all? Do you ever talk about the need to take the greed out of pharmaceutical companies? Do we ever talk at all about taking the greed out of our corporations who are making record profits now? And this is on top of inflation that is hurting the average person even more? No? No? Do you ever talk about that? Of course not. Because those things would actually fix the problem. That would make that elderly person's life better. And not just them, but everybody else's life would be better too. Because guess what? We'd all have guaranteed health care and cheaper drugs. But of course they don't talk about that. And the reason is, of course, she might be required to pay a little bit higher in taxes to make this stuff happen. And to admit that her entire ideology of limited government is wrong. But now, again, I talked about the pitting two sides against each other, right? You're pitting elderly people against struggling students, when we should be looking out for both of them. We're able to look out for both of them. We're the wealthiest country in the world. But where do we spend our money? Bombing people. There's never too much money for the military that we could just fork over. I get that we're giving money to Ukraine. I get it. I understand it. Why is it so easy, though, for them to give money to Ukraine, but not to guarantee childcare? And by the way, not just Ukraine, right? But the defense budget in total, which continues to get raised every single year. More and more money going to the defense contractors who don't need it. Billions and billions of dollars, while regular people continue to struggle and suffer. And not a peep from Fox News. Not a goddamn peep from Janine Pirro. Never talks about it. By the way, she also said, meat and medication. Meat's actually kind of expensive right now. A lot of poor people actually eat a lot of rice, beans, legumes, things like that to survive. She doesn't even know. She doesn't understand the struggle at all. And of course, she wouldn't understand the struggle because she's incredibly wealthy. But understand, we fight, they pick our pockets. And by they, of course, I mean the congressmen, Fox News personalities, and of course, giant multinational corporations. Now, here's the irony. She talks a big game about paying her bills. I pay my bills. Why don't you? Well, that's funny because she doesn't pay her bills either. Turns out her 2006 U.S. Senate campaign owes $600,000 to 20 vendors as of 2019. We don't know if she ever paid them off. Now, so for those who didn't know where this came from, Janine Pirro actually ran for Senate in New York on the Republican ticket. Her campaign was such a failure that she dropped out before the primary, but she did run for Attorney General and won the Republican nomination. Unopposed, however. So, okay, if she doesn't have to run against anybody, then she can win. But then went up against Andrew Cuomo and got crushed. Now, following her loss, she had attempted to dissolve her campaign. But in order to do that, you have to pay your debts. She did not. In fact, an FEC letter from 2019 stated that the failure to timely file a complete report may result in civil money penalties, an audit, or legal enforcement action. The civil money penalty calculation for the late report does not include a grace period and begins on the day following the due date for the report. She took on that debt, $600,000, and then some, to finance her career. Does that sound familiar? Oh, right. College students also take out debt to try to finance their career. Now, according to her logic, she should pay it back. I mean, she does make tons of money as a Fox News host, so why doesn't she pay it back? She gets lots and lots of money from being a Fox News host. I can't imagine she spends that much on booze. Can't be that expensive, right? I mean, pay it back. Come on, Janine, stop being a deadbeat. Pay back your loans. It's asinine that you take out all this money and you just don't pay it back. No, you just don't pay it back. You want what? You want somebody else to pay it back? Well, that would just be wrong, wouldn't it? According to you. So look, she's a terrible person. Like Greg Gutfeld, who promised to go to war to prevent student loan relief from happening. He would rather go to war, than have somebody's debt canceled. That is about the only time that Greg Gutfeld said he would go to war for anything. And it's to ensure that kids that were told that they needed a degree to get a decent job when they were in high school and not end up in poverty for the next 30 years or so, all that so that, student loan servicers can make an extra buck off of them. And that's what it's really all about. Again, all this stuff about, you're making the taxpayers pay for it. Literally, the government just creates money out of thin air. You don't have to tax it into existence. In fact, taxes are to try to get the money out of existence so that you don't have too much. That's why it's a problem when you have rich people hoarding all the money, because that drives up the prices, drives up inflation. Then they have to print more money, of course, in order to make up for the stuff that's being hoarded, all that stuff. And so, rich people really ought to pay their taxes. And rich people really ought to pay what they owe. But here's the thing. We should cancel student loan debt. They're making money off of us. These third-party companies, these servicers, off money that, again, the government just willed out of thin air. Just created it. Just like they created to give to the banks. Just like they created to give to giant corporations like oil companies in subsidies. And so it's not necessarily tax money that's being used for this. We can do it. We can cancel that debt. Biden could do it today. So that's the reality of the situation. But she's just so much of a horrible person that she just couldn't imagine regular people benefiting from something that the government does. When a corporation is planning to pay him back the $2 trillion in COVID money? Good question. Once again, Biden is already backtracking his promises to provide student debt relief. Sad. Well, I mean, does anybody really anybody really expect him to do a whole lot to begin with? No, of course not. Again, I said the most that he would ever consider is 10,000. And that, again, that wouldn't solve the problem. But anyway, $560 billion in oil subsidies. We spend so much on corporate welfare, but when it comes to welfare for the people, no, Biden is not. He already forgave $9.5 billion diligent student loan debt. Yeah, I mean, look, there are some people that have had their student loan debt forgiven, and that's good. But when it comes to broad, and the reason that we're saying Biden has backtracked on his promise is because he promised $10,000 of debt relief for every single person. The Biden administration relieved 563,000, or 1.3% of all borrowers of their student loan debt this year. Again, good, but 1.3%. The promise was 10,000 for every person, every borrower. That's 43 million borrowers. So, and you have the ability, he has the ability to do it today, where he could cancel 50,000, he could cancel all of it. Of course, it's not everything yet, but I think he's saving, forgiving for the midterms. It's getting pretty close. Tick tock, tick tock. We're getting real close. Okay, well, anyway. 10K might pay for community colleges. It might. It depends on where you go. But yeah, community colleges tend to be a little bit cheaper, which is a good thing to do. Stop crying about your debt and pull your weight, says some guy on Facebook. Stop crying about your debt. Okay, well, why don't we ask Janine Pirro to stop crying first? Be great. And stop being a hypocrite. That would be nice too. All right, hold on here. Once student loans are canceled, that would jumpstart the economy for sure. True. True. All right. Let's see. We'd have to have her be sober first. True. All right. So let's read some super chats before we go. All right. Let's see. Gabby Mathis says, love your dragon shirt. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's a good shirt. Dango Bangle says, you really need to cover the test from Welcome to the Slave House lawsuits, really evident what type of treatment for mods we can expect. I will look into that. Dango Bangle says, how will NFTs work for Twitter now? It's a good question. NFTs are a scam. Undecided says, Janine Pirro, America's favorite drunk aunt. That sucks. Let's see. Do we have a thing? Nope, I got rid of that. Okay. Let's see. What else we got? Gabby Mathis says our grocery bill went up 20%. Gas is expensive, and so is our medical insurance with Medicare. Yep. And so, yeah, there are all these financial issues for regular people, and getting back to like, oh, you should just shut up and pay it. Okay, well, why doesn't my workplace pay me? Why don't they actually keep up with, I don't know, inflation? The minimum wage is $7.25 still. pay off student loan debt, to straw carpenter. Also, they oversold the value of a degree. I think that's such a really important point right there. They oversold the value of these degrees. Again, everybody knows, and I've told the story plenty of times, every time I talk about this, how they push and push and push. Go to college. Get a college degree. Get a college degree. It's the only way that you can ever be successful. That's the only way to get a good job. I don't even know what I want to do in the future, though. It doesn't matter. Go to college. Go to college. Go to college. Oh, well, okay, I guess. And then these people get into a ton of debt, finally figure out what they want to do, and it turns out that maybe what they want to do doesn't really pay all that much. Doesn't pay enough to pay off their debt. And so what are you going to do? Well, you're going to end up getting a corporate job, or a job that you hate, or a job that makes you work an additional hours, or even getting an additional job to just pay off what you did for the student loans. For people with student loans to think they're more important than everyone else, why don't we pay off business loans too? You know what's funny is that there are a lot of business loans that actually do get paid off. There's also, have you heard of Paycheck Protection Program? All these business loans that were given out during the pandemic, and, most of it, a lot of it got forgiven. And a lot of these business loans ended up actually going to pump up people's stock. So, in these gigantic companies. And again, I think you're falling into the pitting two sides against each other as well. Me, PhD, now disabled. The loans will follow me to the grave. Yeah, that sucks. Bailouts 2009. Another good point. It's weird how business tends to get more favored than anyone else. Republicans will never say no to corporate bailouts. And not only that, but a lot of corporate Democrats will also not say no to corporate bailouts. Again, we had the bailouts under Obama as well. So, just saying. I'm sending my daughter to the Netherlands for free college. Sad that you have to do that. But maybe they got to figure it out. All right. Well, anyway. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Fun times, as always. You all have a great evening, a great weekend. Hopefully you stay safe and enjoy yourselves. Really appreciate you stopping by. Please give us a like and a share if you haven't already. Share the videos, of course, that you see. I know a lot of college graduates who work with me in the restaurant industry. Yep. That's unfortunate as well. Yeah. Yeah, and of course, there were the promise of jobs, so many jobs. You're just going to trip over jobs. And then you don't get the jobs. And then you're still stuck with all the debt. Oops. Then what are you going to do? You're going to go to the lower paying jobs. And then you're not going to get ahead. Oh, yeah, Twitch. I forgot. TempoDan918, thank you for gifting 2 community subs. Appreciate that. And for resubbing for a month of tier 1 for 16 months. Jeff is my persona. That's great. Oh, again with the spam in the chat though. I'm getting targeted by the porn spammers. Weird. All right. Good night, everybody. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back next week.
dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Mike Pence.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.